What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, November 11th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:01 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Caribbean and from Eastern Europe. So the USS Gerald Ford, that's the largest aircraft carrier in the U.S. Navy, has now officially arrived in the Caribbean. Okay, and this was confirmed by the U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. And the Gerald Ford is critical for any kind of military operations against Venezuela. It can carry at least 75 aircraft of various types. So this means that operations against Venezuela could start in the coming days. And we're also hearing that Venezuela is preparing a guerrilla-style defense if the U.S. attacks, acknowledging its military is under-equipped and poorly paid. The plan reportedly involves scattering small units nationwide to sabotage invading forces and potentially creating street chaos in Caracas to make the country ungovernable. So this is what Reuters is reporting, and yesterday Nicolas Maduro said that Venezuela was studying the tactics of the Vietnamese during the Vietnam War, and that Venezuela was building tunnel networks similar to what the Viet Cong did during the Vietnam War. So this could get pretty crazy, but the Gerald Ford is now in position in the Caribbean, so we could see this massive military operation begin in the coming days. I think Trump is going to wait until the government reopens, which hopefully tomorrow that should happen when the House votes on reopening the government through January. So then in January they're going to have to reconvene to agree on a more permanent bill, but this is just a temporary resolution to keep the government open through the end of the year. Okay, but Trump is going to wait until that passes and the government reopens and things stabilize here. You don't want to start a massive war or military operation right in your backyard. Okay, Venezuela is right in our backyard, guys. It's maybe just 1,500 miles away from the U.S. mainland, so you want to make sure everything is in order here in the U.S. before you do that, okay? And then obviously today's Veterans Day, so I'm thinking sometime later this week or possibly next week, we're going to see this operation begin. I think he's going to do it either before Thanksgiving or he's going to do it in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, okay? Because he doesn't want to interfere with the holidays. He knows that Thanksgiving and Christmas are big travel holidays and shopping holidays. People spend money. He knows that that has a big effect on the economy, so he doesn't want to start a war 2 days before Thanksgiving or 2 days before Christmas Eve, okay? And I just wanted to wish all of the veterans out there a very happy Veterans Day. Today is Veterans Day, and if you see a veteran, if you know a veteran in your life, please say thank you to them for their sacrifices, whether they were deployed in combat or just stayed at a base here in the States. Serving in the military is a sacrifice. Our troops don't get paid a lot of money. They work a lot of hours to keep us safe and to defend liberty around the world. So please thank a veteran in your area. And we have some very concerning news coming out of Eastern Europe. The leader of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, announced that Russia's Oreshnik missile system, that's their IRBM, intermediate range ballistic missile, it's basically an ICBM but with just 2 rocket engines instead of 3. So they just removed that third rocket engine on their Topol missiles, which are like their standard ICBMs that they're widely deployed ICBM. They just removed one of the engines, and so that just shortened the range from, let's say, 6,000 or 7,000 miles down to like 4,000 miles. But Lukashenko announced that this Oreshnik system will enter combat duty with nuclear warheads attached in Belarus in December. Okay, so in as little as 3 weeks, Russia's IRBM intermediate range missile with nukes will enter combat duty in Belarus. Okay. So this is extremely significant, and I think this is Putin's way of trolling Trump, or giving Trump the middle finger, essentially, because it was actually Trump who pulled out of the INF treaty, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. He pulled out of it, all right, and now Russia's deploying this intermediate range ballistic missile that can carry hypersonic nuclear warheads that they tested in Ukraine last year. Okay, clearly an FU to Trump. And Lukashenko said that the system is mobile, that it never stays in one place, and it patrols designated locations. He also added that he informed the U.S. about the presence of tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, noting they are kept in a secure location and were recently serviced in Russia before being deployed into Belarus. Okay, so this is very, very serious. We're going to have to wait and see what Trump does to respond, and I think I know what he's going to do. So we're hearing that the U.S. moved B-52s to Europe. They just arrived in Spain 2 days ago at the Meran Air Base, and they're going to be participating in exercises in Scandinavia and the Baltics. Now, they're saying exercises, okay? Typically, they schedule these exercises well in advance, and they call them Bomber Task Force missions, but I do not see any Bomber Task Force exercises scheduled, so that tells me that this B-52 deployment to Scandinavia and the Baltics is probably a response to Russia deploying those Oreshniks in Belarus. Okay, so these B-52s are going to be right on Russia's borders in Finland, the Baltics, Sweden, Norway. All right, so things are getting crazy, guys. We're going back to the 1950s, 1960s, during the peak of the Cold War, when we had like no arms reduction treaties at all. That's where we're at right now. Okay, we don't have the START treaty anymore, which means no limits on our nuclear arsenal and Russia's nuclear arsenal. No intermediate range nuclear forces treaty anymore. We're also hearing that Russia may pull out of the outer space nuclear treaty if the U.S. deploys the Golden Dome system. We also know that multiple countries have withdrawn from the Conventional Forces Europe Treaty, which was signed during the end of the Cold War. So now Russia and the Europeans can stage as many conventional forces as they want right on each other's borders. So we're like, in the early days of the Cold War in terms of the level of escalation. Okay, this is very, very serious. And last night, Russia launched over 50 drones at a Ukrainian town on the border of Romania. Overnight, a massive Russian Garan 2 drone attack was carried out on Odessa Oblast. Approximately 50 drones were used. The main target was the port and energy infrastructure in Reni. Okay, so this was right on the border of Romania. Russia sending dozens of drones, and last night we heard a large number of nuclear codes being transmitted. There were some very interesting things going on the radio. We heard a global over-the-horizon radar that was really loud in Europe, and it was so powerful you could hear it here in the States all the way in the West Coast. Okay, and I'm going to play some clips for you of that. But we had a global nuclear war radar active late last night after midnight Eastern time, and it was so powerful you could hear it from Europe all the way to Oregon in the U.S. So it was probably the Russians, but it could have been NATO as well. And we had an X5.1 class solar flare earlier today, which is extremely powerful. That's a very powerful solar flare. And then a couple of days ago, we had two X1 point something class flares. Okay, so weaker X class flares. This is a stronger X class flare or moderate X class flare. And an X class flare is the strongest class of flares. Okay, you have X class, M class. M class is like medium. X class is the severe. And this is an X5.1. So this is kind of in the moderate range of the severe class of flares. Okay, and then we had two weak X class flares a couple days ago. So we're hearing that there could be at least a G4 class geomagnetic storm tomorrow and the day after. And a G4 class is the second highest class of a geomagnetic storm. The highest is a G5, okay? So possibly severe geomagnetic storms through the next 48 to 72 hours. We could see low latitude auroras. There could be interference with cell phones and radios and the internet. All right, so if you see any weird interruptions, let me know. Actually, send me email or write in the comments that you're experiencing some weird communications issues, okay? And Russia claims to have foiled a Ukrainian false flag plot involving British intelligence to hijack a Russian jet and launch missiles at Romania's Constanta NATO airbase, which is one of NATO's largest air bases. The FSB reported that they foiled an alleged Ukrainian intelligence plot to hijack a Russian MiG-31 armed with a Kinzhal hypersonic missile and launch it at NATO's largest airbase in Constanta, Romania, in order to provoke NATO. The operation was prepared by Ukraine's main Directorate of Intelligence under the supervision of British intelligence, and apparently Russian pilots were ordered $3 million to carry out the hijacking. Wow. So if that's true, that is extremely concerning. And overnight last night and early this morning, we had a lot of Russian doomsday plane activity. We had two Russian doomsday planes used to move the president of Russia around and other top VIPs around airborne. And there were several Russian VIP planes that were scrambled in the middle of the night last night. I'm going to show you the screenshots of that. And then here we have sound clips of this global nuclear war radar that was audible across the entire northern hemisphere last night on shortwave radio. It was on 9.05 megahertz, roughly 9.04 megahertz. So here we have a clip from New Jersey. Take a listen. And then here we have a clip from Europe. Listen to how loud it was in Europe. And then here we have a clip from Oregon here in the U.S. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food, and this food has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling, but use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video. And I wanted to just show you guys what we have going on right now. So we currently have a U.S. Navy sub-hunter that just completed a patrol off of Russia's Northern Fleet base in the Kola Peninsula near Murmansk. And this is where Russia keeps most of their nuclear-armed submarines. We also had a Norwegian P-8 Poseidon sub-hunter fly to this area just a couple of hours before the U.S. P-8 flew to this area. So the U.S. is keeping an eye on Russia's nuclear posture. You can see it was doing multiple loops here, very close to Murmansk. And what they were trying to do is get a bead on the Russian subs coming in and out of here to see what Russia's nuclear posture is like. Okay, we also have a U.S. Nuclear War Command and Control plane airborne right now. Just took off from Tinker Air Force Base, appears to be heading down to the Gulf. So we'll have to wait and see if a bunch of EAMs start to be transmitted in the next couple of hours. And here we have a picture of the B-52s flying through the Strait of Gibraltar to arrive in the Muran Air Base, where they will then be deployed to the Baltics and Scandinavia. And I think these are basically going to be like the new Operation Chrome Dome missions from the Cold War, when we used to fly B-52s out of this same airbase in Spain, Muran Air Base. We used to fly B-52s all the way up to Yugoslavia, to the border of the Eastern Bloc, to the Soviet Union. We would fly multiple missions right up to the border. I think that's what Trump is going to do. He's going to bring these missions back. And the German defense minister said yesterday that Germany must be ready for war due to the threat from Russia. We also had a concerning situation in Thailand yesterday. Thailand suspended their peace agreement with Cambodia after 2 Thai soldiers were seriously injured by landmines. The Thai army also claimed that Cambodia opened fire on Thai troops patrolling the Thai-Cambodian border, and we're hearing now that the Thai military has been reinforced along the border with Cambodia. And the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated today in an interview that peace in Ukraine requires demilitarization, denazification, removal of threats to Russia, including NATO membership, and protections for Russian-speaking populations. So basically, he reiterated Putin's original demands. So Russia has not changed their demands at all, okay? And the U.S. is planning to build a large military base in Israel's Gaza. The facility would be used... And the U.S. is planning to build a large military base in Israel's Gaza border region. The facility would be used by international forces operating in Gaza to maintain the ceasefire and could accommodate several thousand soldiers. Wow. And we're hearing that balloons once again paralyzed the Vilnius airport in Lithuania. Operations at Vilnius airport were disrupted again yesterday due to balloons. Restrictions were introduced shortly before midnight, temporarily halting the arrival of several flights. Wow. And French and German anti-drone teams have arrived in Belgium, as well as 20 specialists from the British Royal Air Force who will be equipped with drone jammers. So we have the French, the Germans, and the Brits arriving in Belgium to help jam these drones that have been flying over Belgium recently. And they flew over Klein-Brogel, which is a major U.S. nuclear weapons storage base. That's where we keep our B-61 nuclear gravity bombs, one of several in Europe for the Europeans to deploy against Russia. Okay, so these drones were flying right over that base. Very concerning. And Britain issued a travel advisory against all travel to parts of India, as well as of 10 kilometers within the border of Pakistan and India. And we know that India is going to be doing some kind of missile test. They closed down their airspace near Pakistan in the Kashmir region over the next couple of days. And the Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, warned that Putin has the tools that can destroy the entire European Union. And North Korea and Russia continue building a new 5-kilometer-long bridge over the Tumen River to serve as a road link between the countries. This could be crucial if a war were to break out on the Korean Peninsula and Russian reinforcements were needed. And the Polish Prime Minister also said that Ukraine's defeat in the war will lead to a radical deterioration of the situation in Poland. And the European Commission, led by Ursula von der Leyen, is creating a new intelligence unit to better combine information from several EU national spy agencies. So it's kind of like a new Five Eyes, but it's going to be strictly for European countries. So they want to keep America out of this spy organization because they're afraid that Trump is going to share intelligence with Russia. And the Wasp-class amphibious assault ship, the USS Iwo Jima, which houses thousands of U.S. Marines, was spotted at the Frederiksted Pier on the west end of St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands on November the 8th. That's 3 days ago, which is only 500 miles from Venezuela. Okay, so a Marine Corps amphibious assault ship with thousands of Marines spotted in the Virgin Islands 3 days ago. And the UK Telegraph is reporting that if the U.S. seizes control of Venezuela's oil supply, which is the largest oil supply in the world, it could cause oil prices to drop globally to record lows not seen for decades. It could also collapse the Russian and Saudi oil market. So we know now why Trump wants to go after Venezuela. He wants that oil. It's the biggest oil reserve in the world, bigger than the Middle East, bigger than Russia, bigger than Alaska, bigger than Texas, bigger than the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? So Trump wants that oil, and he's going to get it. I think he's going to get it. And the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, said as long as Trump is president and I am the Prime Minister, there will be no sanctions on Hungary. Trump said he would lower tariffs on India. Trump also said that the new Syrian president could make Syria successful. He also said that Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is in favor of everything happening in Syria right now. And the U.S. also suspended sanctions on Syria for the next 180 days. So Trump met with the president of Syria yesterday. They had a huge meeting. They met in the Oval Office. They spent the whole day together, basically. And here we have a picture of a B-52 that was recently spotted with their new AGM-181 LRSO missile. Now, this is known as the Long Range Standoff Missile. It's a replacement for the AGM-86 missile. These are both critical missiles for the U.S. nuclear triad. Each B-52 can carry 20 of these missiles. They're long-range cruise missiles with a range of over 1,500 or 2,000 miles. and they can carry the W-80 thermonuclear warhead, which has a yield of up to 200 kilotons, or 10 times the power of the Hiroshima bombs. So just one of these is 10 times as powerful as the Hiroshima bomb, and they can carry 20 of them on each B-52, and they're replacing the AGM-86 with this new LRSO, which is supposed to basically be a lot more stealthy, okay, and basically invisible to detection. And here we have some Russian doomsday planes that left Moscow. You can see two of these Tupolev Tu-14PU planes. These are reserved for Putin and top leaders of Russia. Here we have a bunch of Russian VIPs being scattered from Moscow. And then we had a lot of reconnaissance over Eastern Europe last night. We had this US RQ-4 Global Hawk high-altitude reconnaissance drone make several passes in Poland along the border of Russia and Belarus. Then it flew to Latvia, made one pass or two there, and then it flew up and down the Finnish-Russian borders. But it basically focused most of its efforts on Poland and Belarus, Latvia, and Finland. And then we also had some other recon planes as well. We had a Swedish reconnaissance plane in southern Finland patrolling the border of Russia. And what was interesting about that one is that it was flying extremely low at only 10,000 feet, which is unusual for a reconnaissance plane. And then we also had a Spanish recon plane or aerial refueler over Latvia. And then here's another Russian doomsday plane. Took off from Moscow, went to the Urals, and then flew back to St. Petersburg. Very unusual flight path. Okay, almost like it was scrambled from Moscow, and then it was going to go to the Urals, and then it went back to St. Petersburg, which is Putin's hometown. And then we had this interesting aerial refueler from Mildenhall in the UK that flew all the way to Romania and refueled a US sub-hunter from Sicily. And I'm guessing this sub-hunter did a big patrol in the Black Sea after getting refueled. But what's interesting about this refueler, it's a KC-135T, which is a specialized refueler that carries specialized fuel for specialized planes. Okay, so this is not your average refueler. And here's a closer look at that high-altitude recon drone operated by the U.S. Air Force. Did multiple passes in Poland, and then it went to Latvia. And then here you can see that Swedish recon plane patrolling the border of Finland and Russia at the same time as the U.S. high-altitude recon drone. So they were in this area at the same time, which is very unusual. And Trump on Truth Social threatened to withhold the pay of air traffic controllers who were not working during the shutdown. And he also claimed that he would give a $10,000 bonus to the air traffic controllers that were still working. He also said that he would issue a $2,000 dividend from tariff money to middle and lower income households. We'll see if that actually happens. If you remember, him and Elon Musk promised $5,000 to everybody from Doge. Where is that $5,000? Yeah, it was a lie. Okay, that was pure BS. And Chinese scientists are developing a new drug that could extend the human lifespan to potentially 150 years, which is totally insane. And speaking of China, we have video footage here of this new bridge in China that is 780 meters tall, and the bridge apparently collapsed, looks like due to a landslide, and nobody was injured or anything. Okay, this is a brand new bridge, and it just suddenly collapsed. Looks like because of a landslide there on that hillside that they built the bridge onto. So just totally insane scenes here. 780 meters tall, guys. That's almost a kilometer. That is totally insane. Wow, look at that. So not everything is all peaches and cream in China over there. They're having some quality issues, no surprise. Here we have some U.S. Customs and Border Patrol balloons active over the Florida Keys and Arizona. This was last night. We've been seeing these balloons come on at night in these areas. And then here's a satellite picture of this Russian-North Korean bridge over the Tumen River. And then here we have some footage of the snow in Indiana 2 days ago. Northwest Indiana in particular, close to Chicago, got hit really hard with lake effect snow. Just absolutely insane conditions. And then here in Pennsylvania, we had some really bad lake effect snow last night that caused pileups on Interstate 80. They had to shut down a section of the highway not far from where I live because of the whiteout blizzard conditions. So guys, just be careful out there, because a lot of you guys are not used to driving in the snow. You're not used to the weather yet. So just take it easy when the weather hits. You know, there's no need to rush when you have conditions like this. Okay, your life is more important than anywhere you have to go. All right. And then finally, we have a picture here of the future USS Idaho, Virginia class Block 4 nuclear powered attack sub leaving Groton, Connecticut last week on sea trials. So a new nuclear attack sub undergoing sea trials. All right, but that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with a live update. Make sure you follow me on X and Telegram and download my app. Anytime I go live, I always send out an alert on my app, and on X and on Telegram, I let people know when I'm going live, but it'll probably be a little bit later on tonight. So until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.